This is my iPhone 15 Pro Max. I've had it for a year and I've pre-ordered the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Before I get the 16 Pro Max, I thought I'll just take a look at this phone again, see what I like and what I don't. First of all, the design. When the 15 Pro Max released last year, it was the best iteration of the 14 Pro Max if you ask me. It's got titanium around the edges, making the phone to be much lighter, and it is the most refined flat-edged iPhone yet. The 16 Pro Max might be better, but for now, this is the greatest iPhone design yet, if you ask me. The titanium frame and the weight distribution do wonders to the holdability of the phone. Especially noticeable if you're coming from the 14 Pro Max, as the phone does not feel heavy at all compared to the 14 Pro Max, which had a stainless steel band around it. It weighs 19 grams less than the 14 Pro Max, and that makes a huge difference. Talking about the colors, we had the phone in natural titanium, which I have here. We had black, white, and a blue as well. And talking about durability, after using this phone for 1 year without having it in a case, I can assure you there are zero scratches around the body of my phone. It's easily the most durable iPhone I've ever used. When the 15 Pro Max launched, Zach Nelson from Jelly Rig Everything tested the durability of this phone, and this phone did not fare well. It broke as soon as he started bending it. But honestly, in hindsight, this has been the most durable phone, as I just said. The next thing I want to talk about is the performance. The iPhones were never slow, and the same is true of the 15 Pro Max. Not once did I wish that my phone could have performed something better. It delivers every single time. I feel like personally I've never pushed the processor to the max, but that's a good thing. There's always some headway for future use. I'm on the current iOS 18 beta, and it might be running beta software, but the phone is not slow at all. It just works. The next feature that Apple exclusively introduced with the 15 Pro Max is this button over here. If I get it to focus, it's the action button. It was the most prominent feature of the 15 and 15 Pro Max if you ask me. Usually on Twitter, every other week, there's a new thread saying that, this button over here, the action button was unnecessary, it's just overrated. But for me personally, it's been really good. As somebody who likes to take pictures, I'll program this to the camera. So if I click on it, the camera opens, right? So it's the fastest way for me to get to the camera. Of course, with the 16 Pro Max, with the camera control over here, I might have to find a new use for this button, but for now, this one just works, and I really like this feature. And I'm glad every single phone on the iPhone 16 series is getting it, because the customizable button is really great. You can set it to whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be the camera or the silent toggle switch. The other headlining feature with the 15 Pro Max is the USB-C port over here. During the iPhone 15 keynote last September, I wasn't particularly excited about the switch to USB-C. I always use a MagSafe charger to charge my phone, so I thought it's just a port, it doesn't make much of a difference. But I was very wrong. I love the USB ecosystem. It's not just any other port to charge my phone anymore. I could plug my external keyboard into this and start typing away. I once plugged this into a USB-C dock, and the display just came up on my monitor, and I could use the attached keyboard and I could type messages away. I pre-ordered an external SSD that could, plug into this, and then I could film directly to the SSD. I can't wait for that to arrive. The other added benefit of USB-C is obviously that it's one cable to rule them all. I can use the USB-C on my MacBook, on my iPad, my Nintendo Switch, and now my phone as well, which is great. Talking about USB-C and charging, the battery life on this phone has been pretty great. It's not as good as the 13 Pro Max, which I think is the best iPhone yet in terms of battery life, because that didn't have an always-on display and the battery just lasted forever. But the 14 and 15 are equal, if you ask me. It's still a good battery, lasts all day. I only let it charge up to 80% and I still could do whole day unless I was, going out and taking pictures and stuff like that. By the time of this recording, 5 days before I get my 16 Pro Max, if I look at the battery health, it's on 94%. When the 15 and 15 Pro Max launched, the phones had a heating problem. I'm glad I didn't necessarily face those problems, and Apple did manage to fix it by a software update. Turning out it was a software issue after all. But this phone does get hot at times, and I'm hoping the 16 Pro Max will fix those issues. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the camera. The camera is the main reason I upgrade a phone every single year. This camera has been pretty great. The sensors on the main and ultra-wide camera haven't changed much from the 14 Pro Max. The processing has been tweaked slightly, resulting in photos that look a bit different with Smart HDR5, but only when you're shooting JPG. I now exclusively shoot in RAW, and I can't see much of difference coming from the 14 Pro Max. I haven't done much pixel peeping or zooming in, but for my eye, they feel the same. But the level of detail you get in these raw pictures are outstanding. You could edit the pictures to whatever you want them to be. My favorite lens out of these three is the telephoto lens. It's been great. It's the best telephoto lens on an iPhone yet. The quality wise, it's much better than the 14 Pro Max or the ones before. The only problem is that it zooms in a bit too much because 5x obviously zooms in a bit too much. I wish there was a way to have a 3x and both the 5x camera, but if I have to pick only one, I'll pick the 5x any day. In terms of video, the 15 Pro and Pro Max lets you record in the log format. I haven't done much video to comment about it, but it's been really good. It's delivered, and obviously, the iPhones are top notch when it comes to video. In a few days' time, the iPhone 16 Pro Max will be here, and I'll be switching over to the 16 Pro Max. And looking back at it, I think the 15 has been a really good iPhone, and the upgrade to the 16 is really minimal. I feel like you don't have to upgrade if you're on a 15, but because I'm myself and I like buying a phone every year, I am going to upgrade. But if you still have this phone, or if you are thinking of getting a 15 Pro Max, I think this is a really, really good phone. Now that the 16 is out, you could find this for much cheaper. Thanks for watching.